listen intently if you can, and if you have any thoughts or reflections, comments, questions afterwards, there will be some time for that. Yes? Okay, over to you.
Hare Krishna. Can we ask everybody to move forward? Thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava.
There we go. Now we're closer. I like to make new friends. That's also one of my other hobbies. So we're going to sing another little song just to set the mood right. Everyone can hear me okay?
Yeah.
And a little low. And just so everyone's comfortable, you know, there's chairs in the back. If anyone comes in, someone's able to, you know, someone sees someone elderly, and if they might feel a little more comfortable sitting in a chair, or even if you're young and you feel more comfortable sitting in a chair, that's okay also. So we just want everyone to be comfortable so that they can hear. Ultimately, we're just going to be speaking from the Bhagavad Gita, and everyone's here to really hear what Krishna has to say. So just like Krishna, and try to share any little experiences also. So we're just going to sing Jaya Radha Madhava here, and it'll just be call and response, and then we'll dive into the Gita. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Nandana. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Nandana. Yamunati Ravanachari. Yamunati Ravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Nandana. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Nandana. Yamunati Ravanachari. Yamunati Ravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Nandana. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Nandana. Yamunati Ravanachari. Yamunati Ravanachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare So did that set the mood okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Whoever's making the garlands is doing a very nice job. If they're not here, please relay that message to them. So, the topic on the Bhagavad Gita, before we dive into it, we are going to call it What to Do. Or sometimes my Guru Maharaj says, What to do? That we're going to understand, what is the practical application of devotional service or bhakti yoga, and how to really implement spiritual life and integrate it into your everyday activities. So if anyone has a pocket Bhagavad Gita or a phone, you can pull it up, but we're gonna dive into the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And before that, we'll just do a couple last invocation prayers. But the chapter is called Devotional Service. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances to my spiritual master, who opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Hare Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, who endeavored so hard to bring this transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita as it is, so that everyone could get the benefit from reading the Gita in the chain of parampara. So, this chapter it's one of the shortest chapters in the Bhagavad Gita, so it's quite relevant for a Sunday feast class. It's only 20 verses, but for those of you who haven't tried to read the Bhagavad Gita in full, it doesn't take very long. And this chapter probably only take 5 minutes to actually read, just the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. This whole Bhagavad Gita is actually a conversation. It's not just Krishna telling Arjuna, you do this, you do that, and demanding him listen to him. But Arjuna is inquiring. He's wanting to understand and have some direction and take some guidance. This Vaishnava culture is a culture of guidance. So we find people who are spiritually advanced, more than ourselves, and then we inquire from them. I'll ask them, give me some perspective, give me some direction. So this chapter comes just after the Virat Rupa, or the universal form of the Lord is shown, which Arjuna's mind becomes completely bewildered and awestruck by seeing this magnificent form that Krishna displayed. And now he's going to ask some serious questions, but then also some practical questions also. The first question asks, of your form, Krishna, there's 3 features of divinity. There's Brahman, or the Brahma Jyoti, there's the Paramatma, and then there's Bhagavan. Brahman is like the all-pervasive effulgence, or energy of God. And then Paramatma is the localized aspect, God within the heart of every individual, every human, every plant, every animal, every bacteria, whatever you can think of that's alive. There's a soul present within the body, but there's also the super soul. We have limited perspective, our consciousness is pervading through this body, but God's consciousness, or Krishna, he's all-knowing, he's all-pervasive, so he also knows what's going on in everyone's mind. So this practice of bhakti yoga, of devotional service, is about purifying the consciousness, purifying our senses. Right now, our senses are directed towards sense gratification. That's going to be what gives me pleasure. That's going to be what satisfies me. But when we start to see that there's a lack of that, and in that endeavor, we feel dissatisfied actually, because there's a saturation point. We're going to, afterwards we'll honor prasadam, which will be these opulent foodstuffs prepared by the devotees, prasadam. And you can eat up till here, but then you'll feel sick afterwards. So, there's a saturation point. It'll be so relishable in the moment, but then you'll feel sick. So, in spiritual life, when we go through the purificatory process of endeavoring and trying to direct our lives with a spiritual dimension to it, then we really start to see this transformation and this more inner satisfaction that takes place just by this practical application of Krishna consciousness or bhakti yoga. So we're just going to go through the chapter in one shot, and people can take this away from the class. If you haven't already tried this program or done it before, it's called Chad, a chapter a day, and you'll find this great, beautiful spiritual fortification when one does it. So, Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifest? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Krishna said, those who fix their minds on my personal form are always engaged in worshipping me with great transcendental faith, are considered by me to be most perfect. And just like this book is taking place as a conversation, we're going to have some conversations afterwards. So let's try to tune in and hear what Krishna is saying, and then we'll discuss about it afterwards. But those who fully worship the unmanifest, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifest, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, being devoted to me, without deviation, engage in devotional service, and always meditate upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Just fix your mind upon me, just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always, without a doubt. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot, so we're getting into the stage here where what to do. Krishna is going to give some a hierarchy of, okay, the topmost is do this, which was the past verse. So this is really a really important section in this chapter. So the first one was, just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus, you'll live in me always, without a doubt. So that's the first consideration. That, if someone can just fully dedicate their lives, their minds, their intelligence, their activities, fully in the service of the Lord, topmost. Is anyone here doing that? Hey, Gregory, he's up for it. So this is the goal. This is the gold standard, and we want to get towards the gold standard. But we might not be there yet. So Krishna gives a progression. Okay, if you're not fully there, then try this on for size. And he says, my dear Arjuna, if you can't do that, if you can't fix your mind upon me without deviation, then just follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. So, if you can't just become fully absorbed in service to Krishna constantly, then start to regulate your life in a certain way. We have like these principles within the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which help regulate our senses so they can be directed or dovetailed towards devotional activities. Then the next consideration that Krishna gives, if you can't regulate your senses so well and you're having difficulty doing that, you can't take to the regulative practice of devotional service, then Krishna says, if you can't take to this practice, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you'll come to the perfect stage. So this is a good practical example. We're all working in the world, yes? We all have some duty to perform, some actions. So make it as an offering. And we'll dive into the purport here afterwards, because it's super relevant to what we're actually doing here at the temple. Is we're trying to build a bigger center so that everyone can come and enjoy and dance to one's heart's content. So the next consideration is, if however you're unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act, giving up all results of your work, and try to be self-situated. So that's saying, if you can't directly contribute through your activities of work to Krishna, then give somewhere, give in charity to someone, somewhere. This is a step up. And if you can't take to that practice by just giving in charity to someone, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Because better than knowledge is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. So you see, Krishna is really giving these considerations for us. We have these certain conditionings, inclinations, desires within ourselves. So he's giving a ladder by which you can walk up, back home, back to Godhead. So, and then just about 5 more verses. One who is not envious, but a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination. His mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee is very dear to me. Now Krishna's going to say, who's dear to him? So the next person who's dear to Krishna. So we all want to cultivate these activities and these outlooks. He for whom no one is put into difficulty. What? No one is put into difficulty. And who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness, in distress, fear, and anxiety, is very dear to me. My devotee, who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things. Such a devotee is very dear to me. Two more. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge, and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. Okay, now we're going to do the cherry on top. This is the last verse of this chapter. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Jaya. Bhagavad Gita chapter 12, entitled Devotional Service Key.
Jaya.
So, you know, the chapter, it starts out with this question of what is the best practice I should take up to? You know, generally there's different yogic paths or different paths to approaching the Supreme. We'll see there's different religions, different ways people incorporate their connection with God, with divinity, with analyzing this world, you know, through even science and so on. They start to cultivate an appreciation for it. What we're really cultivating is something higher, something more subtle, something spiritual. But it's actually the most tangible thing that we can experience, because everything else is temporary. I've heard a lot of discussion about death lately, and you know, the temporality of the body, and how ultimately that's the ultimate truth for every individual. And a lot of time we neglect it, that we don't want to hear about, you know, when one has to leave their body or die. And Krishna is giving these two paths to approach towards God. One is the impersonal aspect, that God is everything, everything is one. And that path takes severe renunciation. You have to completely cut all ties to the material world. Maybe some of you are from India here. You may have been up to the Himalayas and maybe seen some great ascetics and yogis who practice this sort of renunciation, and you know, walking away from the world and anything to do with like trying to entice the senses. The senses are naturally enticed by sense objects. So these practitioners, they want to recluse from that, stay away from that, so it's not unnecessary agitated. Whereas the personal feature, or the other aspect to approaching towards God, is that God is a person. Everything emanates from Krishna, everything material and everything spiritual emanates from God ultimately. So rather than us trying to dabble with matter and trying to enjoy that matter, what the real process is we connect everything back to Krishna. It's the principle called yukta vairagya, where you dovetail everything into Krishna's service. What does dovetail mean? People might not know, but it's actually a carpenter term for those who might like to work with wood. But it's where they cut like a notch into the wood on both sides, and they fit the wood together so it becomes you know, Loctite. It's like two separate pieces, but it's connected, and then it becomes more solid. So similarly, this practice of yukta vairagya, we connect everything back to Krishna, all of our activities, our intelligence, our work, our every endeavor ultimately. So, you know, where he starts off in those basic advice that ultimately, if you can do it, go all in, go for gold, completely surrender to me. You know, you can become brahmachari and just make your life fully absorbed in service to Krishna, ultimately spreading God consciousness all throughout the world, which that might not be possible for everyone. But he gives another stipulation where if you can't do that, then just live a regulated lifestyle that's also centered around my service, which is what most of us are doing here, or are aspiring to do here. So we're following, you know, some regulative principles that puts up guardrails in our lives, that we don't veer too far off track, and we can keep, the goal is to keep the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. So we really focus on what is the ultimate goal of life. It's to connect to Krishna, ultimately. Understand that Krishna's a real person. He's God, ultimately. And that we're an eternal spiritual being, and we're meant to revive that original dormant consciousness that we have. Right now, due to the bodily experience, it's difficult to perceive that because our senses are so strong and they're impelled towards anything that's going to give us instant gratification. What are some things that give us instant gratification?
Ice cream.
Ice cream. Yes. And as I have a little daughter, if any of you guys know, and every day she says, cheesecake, cheesecake. She became addicted to cheesecake. So, yeah, these things, there are other things also, you know, sometimes intoxications, drinking, smoking, so many other activities that can just be like an instant joy. But as described in like the 17th chapter of the Gita, that usually if it's instant pleasure, it's actually, it seems like nectar in the beginning, but it comes out like poison in the end. But that which seems like poison in the beginning is actually nectar in the end, which means, you know, that stuff that's actually, there's a term called delayed gratification. And sometimes they test kids with this trial to say, okay, would you like one cheesecake right now, or would you like 2 cheesecakes in 1 hour? Maybe cheesecake's not the best example, but little candies, you know, that if they wait for 2 rather than 1, it seemed like, you know, that intelligence is actually smart because you're going to get a longer run out of it. Let's just put in the context of spirituality that if we can restrain the senses from the sense objects, which is very difficult, and until one really steadily practices, and then by that practice they'll progress, then they'll be able to restrain the senses, control the senses, but it's a gradual process. So in this way we regulate our lives so that we can approach towards more of a refined spiritual insight. And then the next one is where we're going to read the purport from. But if you can't practice these regulations for whatever reason, if it's difficult, then just start working for me, you know. The principle is that we all have some work to do. We all get some reciprocation from that in the form of, you know, finances and so on. And to be able to offer some of that wealth or endeavor, that work, and connect it back to Krishna, will actually naturally draw our minds towards that. The common saying is, your mind goes where your money is. You probably all had an experience. You buy this new gadget off of Amazon, and you're thinking about it all day, just waiting for it to come. It arrives on the doorstep. You open it up. 10 minutes later, you know, you're not even excited about it anymore. So, we say, if you put your money, if you put some of your work, and you take that at the end of the program here, you put it in a little envelope, and you put it in the hundi, guess where your mind's going to be? At Kornita's lotus feet. And then in the night, you're going to be thinking, oh my God, you know, where'd all my money go? It's at Krishna's lotus feet. So, but within this purport, it's so practical, actually. It's not just, and this is also a request, that we need everyone's help. We're trying to rebuild the temple here. We see today, there's not as many people because of the snow, but usually it's jam-packed in here. We can't fit the shoes in there. So it's a request to also, you know, find a way. Everyone has some sort of connections where people might be interested to help support a mission like this. They might not be willing to go in, move into the temple, do all this, but they see the value of people who are trying to push on spiritual knowledge. Me and Alex Prabhu and Akshay and Gregory Prabhu, who else was there? Sahil. We were all out yesterday doing Sankirtan, which was sharing the Bhagavad Gita. Oh, Purvi and Avatar were there also. And was it fun, Avatar? Yeah, see, she liked it. She's endorsing it. So fun for everyone, fun for kids also. And we were sharing this message of the Bhagavad Gita with people. And we met a lot of people that their homeland is India, and they were shocked and impressed that we were out there in the freezing cold. Hands wouldn't even move because it's so cold out, but they were deeply touched and appreciative of us connecting with them and sharing this message of Sanatana Dharma and this practice of Krishna consciousness. So help us spread. Nitin, you were there too. Sorry for you're hiding right there. We had a whole crew. Next week we're going to do it also for anyone else who wants to have some fun. Service must go on. So within this purport, Srila Prabhupada really practically explains that one who is not able to practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga under the guidance of a spiritual master can still be drawn to this perfectional stage by working for the Supreme Lord. How to do this work has already been explained in the 55th verse of the 11th chapter. One should be sympathetic, which means they should see that there's value in this activity. One should be sympathetic to the propaganda of Krishna consciousness. There are many devotees who are engaged in this propagation of Krishna consciousness, and they require help. They require help. So, even if one cannot directly practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, he can try to help such work. Whatever way you can help. Every endeavor requires land, capital, organization, and labor. So if anyone has any of these talents or facilities, please help. And some organization to expand. So the same is required in the service of Krishna. The only difference is that in materialism, one works for sense gratification. The same work, however, can be performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, and that is spiritual activity. Wow, that should blow your mind. I'm going to read it again. The same work, however, can be performed. Okay, let's start from here. The only difference is that in materialism, one works for sense gratification. True or true?
True.
The same work, however, can be performed for the satisfaction of Krishna. That is spiritual activity. So you can just spiritualize your activities just by that simple process of connecting it to Krishna in whatever way one has facility. If one has sufficient money, he can help build an office or a temple for propagating Krishna consciousness. Or he can help with publications. There are various fields of activities, and one should be interested in such activities. If we cannot sacrifice the results of his activities, the same person can still sacrifice some percentage to propagate Krishna consciousness. This voluntary service to the cause of Krishna consciousness will help one rise to the higher state of love for God, whereupon one becomes perfect. Hare Krishna. So there's a beautiful verse that I think we've quoted a couple of times, and that comes from the Chaitanya Charitamrita that emphasizes on this point that goes like Sarvapadi Vanir Muktam. Sarvapadi Vanir Muktam Tatpratena Nirmalam Hrishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uchate. That when one takes up to this practice of devotional service, there's two features that come. One purifies the senses, naturally. And then, from material, they purify the sense from material sense enjoyment to Krishna's. They Krishna-ize the whole process. It becomes, I want to make my endeavor to please Krishna, ultimately. And so one purifies the senses, and then they also get the upadhis. They start to not identify as this body, this, I come from this country, this family, I'm very prestigious, but they start to see, no, I'm actually a son or daughter, I'm a part and parcel of Krishna, and I'm meant to serve Krishna. It's really a natural process, and I'm sure many of you who've come here, you've experienced something like that, that you're feeling, I'm progressing, I'm connecting to Krishna in a deeper way. So whatever you got, whether it's intelligence, strength, youthful energy, use that in Krishna's service by helping us shovel the driveways outside, because there's a lot of snow out there and sometimes it's difficult for one person to do. Or help us, organize in a special way. There's so many practical ways by which you can use your skills that you've cultivated in studying and in the work that you do, that you can just Krishna-ize it. You just apply it to the same process of how can I engage this in Krishna's service? And then you'll start to feel this deep sense of satisfaction, connection. It's not like mundane work where you're like, oh, dang, Monday's coming along, I gotta go back to work. But you start to feel, yes, I want to do this. I want to do this full time. This is my life's engagement. And you feel so satisfied doing it. So, we try to work for Krishna. If you can't do that, then just cultivate knowledge. Try to hear. Come to the Bhagavad Gita classes on Thursday. Surendra Gopal Prabhu hosts, or the morning Bhagavatam classes. Start to just hear this transcendental message of you're not the body, but you're actually a spiritual being, and then come out on Sankirtan. If you know very little, you'll learn a lot from going out on Sankirtan. A lot of practical skills also. Some practical skills is non-violent communication. How to talk to people in a way where the relationship can blossom and flourish rather than it can be stifled and diminished. So maybe we could share a little experience from the Sankirtan endeavors yesterday. Because you don't have to do anything. You don't have to share the books. You just have to come and touch the pavement. That's really all we ask. Is just come, just be there, observe. You can even just come for 1 minute if one likes. But the main goal is to make the little endeavor. Akshay, you got a little memory from yesterday?
Yeah. So yesterday it was my first experience. So yesterday it was my first experience by work. Initially it was a little bit difficult to approach people because it was in the downtown, so everyone was busy. Someone was going to work, someone was. So initially it was difficult, but then at the end I learned a lot of things, and we approached many different people from different backgrounds. So and it was very fascinating for me to see what this Prabhuji, how they were passing on the message of Bhagavad Gita to different people from different backgrounds. So I learned a lot. It was a great experience, and looking forward to it again.
We'll see you next week. Alex Prabhu, you want to share your experience from yesterday? Alex Prabhu will share a nice little experience of, it was freezing inside. People just wanted to run away, walk away. But there's also people who, the soul is hungry for deeper connection, and they see there's so much suffering, and they're burnt out with material life. And maybe Alex, Dr. Alex Prabhu can share like an experience that you had or you saw.
Yeah, so it was very cold. So I didn't distribute many books yesterday, but for some reason I felt okay with it. Felt like we were doing a good thing. It's not about the books really, it's about spreading the good word and sharing good vibes with people. But I still felt blissful. I think I felt, yeah, I really liked seeing devotees there. We had a nice group there, which was really nice. But yeah, by the end of it, it's always at the end. It's amazing how Krishna arranges things. It happened before. It's always at the end. We're just about to pack up, and then somebody shows up and is interested in the books. So interested that she ended up coming back with us here, actually. Her name is Jessica. She is struggling materially, living in the streets, but such a beautiful, kind soul, and very, very spiritually inclined, and actually, refers to herself as being a servant of the Lord in her own way. And she was fascinated by Krishna books. She came back here on Prasadam with us, and we had a really wonderful discussion about both of us, how we try to serve the Lord in our own way. And this is somebody who has nothing, so it's very, very inspiring. Literally sleeps anywhere. She told me she stayed up 60 days one time because she was afraid of what would happen if she just slept outside. So, but she was extremely, extremely grateful for us and the knowledge that we're sharing and the love that we're sharing. And so, yeah, very, very purifying. Sankirtan is the most purifying thing, one of at least. So, highly recommend it.
Sankirtan ki!
Jaya.
And just two small experiences, and I know we probably have to wrap up here for some Hare Krishna dance party. But the two quick experiences was sometimes if anyone's ever been down to Rideau Mall or like the Byward Market, just in that area, it's a little sketchy sometimes. There's a lot of unique characters that are down there. And somehow when we showed up on the scene, a lot of stuff just disperses. There's people doing some sort of drugs and stuff, but multiple times when we've been down there, just all that stuff vanishes. So that's a miracle in itself. But this one lady came up, and it seemed like she was struggling also, and she was begging. So she was kind of begging with her partner, and she came up to us, and we're wearing tilak, dhotis. We got some books. She sees the Srimad Bhagavatam, this beautiful transcendental blue cover, and she looks at it. She was so enticed. And then since she's begging, she naturally wanted to ask, you give me. And she kind of put on like a little plead face, like, well, please, you give me. And I said, no, we're sharing this knowledge on behalf of Krishna, that you give us, we're monks. And then from this powdered face, she said, okay, I'll give it. Then she goes in her bag and she finds whatever she could give. We didn't need the money. It wasn't anything like that. But she found a tuni and she gave the tuni for the Srimad Bhagavatam. I said, would you like any else? She said, no, I want this one. And she was so happy, so enthusiastic to get this Srimad Bhagavatam that she, you could see the joy in her heart that she came. She chanted the mantra also, and she left blissful. So. And then one other gentleman, his name was Eric, that he was so sincere that he saw this message, he saw all the books, he was inquiring sincerely. And then this is the benefits of kids Sankirtan, is when they go out on the streets, that my daughter and Gorby showed up on the scene, and he saw it and he asked, what's her name? And he said, Avatar is her name. And he saw it and he just started contemplating. He's like, that means a descendant of the Supreme. And he was just like amazed. And then I said, we like to say, one who aspires to be empowered by the Supreme. And he's so deeply touched and like enthused by seeing it. He started crying out of appreciation. And he was saying, this is so beautiful what you guys are doing. He's like, I'm gonna come as soon as I can. And people are really moved actually by the interactions, that we just want to connect with people on a spiritual level. That's really the only goal, is to connect people on a deeper level, because we see their hearts are hurting, they're frustrated with life and suffering. So anyways, those are just some quick experiences of our Sankirtan. So we'd love for people to come out, hang out with us, and just have your own experience of that. We met Sun. Your name? What's your name again? Soham. We met you out over at Ottawa U, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, thank you for coming. Everyone give him a big welcome. So you can see, the results of people seeing the Bhagavad Gita. Why'd you come today? What inspired you to come?
So when I was a kid, my dad used to take me to ISKCON temples all the time. But when we came into Canada, there wasn't any. So we just kind of did nothing. I guess we prayed at home, and we still keep with all the religious stuff. Like we celebrate Diwali, Holi, Navratri, and all that other stuff. Is it working? It's all good. It's fine.
We can hear him.
Yeah, it's okay.
Online, I guess they need to hear.
So yeah, and then when I saw that there was something for ISKCON here, I was like, okay, might as well come check it out. See what it's about.
Air props.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. And if we didn't go out and connect with people over at Ottawa U, you wouldn't have known that we were actually neighbors. So, Ottawa U is pretty much our neighbor. Okay, then maybe we can take 5 minutes of reflections or questions. And I see Raymond Prabhu has something. Hare Krishna.
Hello.
Haribol.
Yeah, I always had a few questions. A few questions, thousands.
Let's do one.
So I read the books. I read all the books I could find. And then when I finished them, I asked, what do I do now? And Shankar was here, says, read them again. To read all the books, it takes 3 to 4 to 5 years. So I read them twice, but one thing I found is I wanted to know, where is God? Like, I'd like to be closer to Him. Where is He? And the answer is that He's where people get together and chant His name. That's where He. So today, we are actually God, and for Him to give us His presence, He gives us Gaurvaditai, Krishna, the boss in the back, and Prabhupada. So His presence, if you want to be in the presence of God, you're right with Him right today. Because He's where people gather to chant His name. So that's why I come to the temple. Plus the good prasad.
That's the best. Yes. Thank you so much for that.
Couple of these. But it's important that we come here to meet with God. It's important to come on time. You come at 3 o'clock and you get the benefits of all the chanting, being the presence of God, get this feeling. You leave the temple and you have, there's a bright feeling in your heart. And I feel it. I'm sure other people feel that. It's a really nice thing to do. And also, I have a lot of questions. This spiritual world, what is it like and what's the difference? So we get a lot of information here about that. But world, every step is a dance and every word is a song. So now today, we're going to do every step through a dance, and we're going to sing every word is a song. So we're actually in the spiritual world when we come to the temple.
That's a perfect segue into our beautiful Kirtan event that we're going to have now. So thank you so much for that, Raymond Prabhu. Now, if everyone's okay, we can stand up, get loosened up, and then we're going to put all the mats to the side. And if someone feels uncomfortable and they don't want to dance, then they can hang out in the back, but make sure we leave room for all the devotees who are going to ecstatically dance. And the great process is you can become self-realized soul just from dancing. So all your worries will go away. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
My worries all going away.
Connect everything to Krishna.
You connect everything.
Good change. Good change.
Where's the full guard?
I forgot it.
Because my sister, and then they just left it. No, it's perfect.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanande Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurvani Pracharani Vishesha Srimavadi Asvatara Satale Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Nitai Gauranga,
Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga,
Nitai Gauranga, Gaura Hari.
Nitai Gauranga, Gaura Hari.
Gaura Gaura, Gaura Hari.
Gaura Gaura, Gaura Hari.
Gaura Gaura, Gaura Hari.
Gaura Gaura, Gaura Hari.
Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari.
Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari.
Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari.
Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari.
Gaura Gaura, Gaura Hari.
Gaura Gaura, Gaura Hari.
Gaura Gaura Hari.
Gaura Gaura, Gaura Hari.
Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari.
Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari.
Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari.
Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari.
Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga,
Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga,
Nitai Gauranga, Gaura Hari.
Nitai Gauranga, Gaura Hari.
Nitai, 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 Nitai,